when we were young and we had such a passion for the Lord and we wanted to give our lives fully to the kingdom of God, we had no idea the venture we would have. And one thing I've learned through the years is that when you pioneer, it's not just what you do, but it's who you are. And God puts inside of you that apostolic ability to pioneer, to hear his voice and to obey his voice. And so God called us. We were in Kansas City. And one day I was sitting in our living room, and Rebecca was like 2.5 years old, and Joel was like 3-4 months old. And I'm sitting there, and I hear these words: put everything you have in storage, head south, and you'll end up in the Northeast. I'm going, that is the craziest thing I have ever heard. And I just ignored it. But, Stephen, tell me your story.
Well, we were pastoring a church at the time, and we were having a concert, and the person that was doing the music started speaking prophetically, but then the Lord spoke to my heart directly and said, "You are released from this place." And then you don't really know what you're doing. So, I was asking the Lord what to do, and I was driving down the road, and I looked over at it was a storage place where you put your stuff. And the Lord spoke to me and said, put all of your stuff in storage, head south, and you'll end up in the Northeast. And so that's how that started.
And so he comes home and he said, Melodye, I had the strangest thought. And he told me that very thing. And I went, oh my goodness, that has to be God. And it was like crazy. So we put everything in storage, got in our little Datsun, what was it, a B210? 510. Yeah, a little Datsun. And Joel had his teddy bear and Rebecca had a baby doll, and we had some clothes and just got in there. We headed south and we ended up in the Northeast. And so that was an adventure in itself. And it took us about 9 months until we got to the area that we're at now here. Actually, it was Millersburg. And so when we were here, it was a really challenging time. We had a lot of adventures, a lot of experiences, a lot of challenges. And so one thing I knew that was really, really important was that it was important that our needs were met, and we didn't have any money. We didn't know where our money was coming from. And so tell them about your adventure.
Well, I was looking for jobs, and every place I would go, they would say you're overqualified. And one of the things I thought of earlier was that, the Lord has to change your mindset, because at that time, I didn't know it, but I had a religious mindset. And with that, I was offered a job, but I would have had to work Wednesday nights. And so in my mind, I thought, I can't work Wednesday nights because that's a church night. And so the Lord had to work through that with me. But anyway, I couldn't find a job, and I went to the Lord and I said, Lord, your word says if you don't work, you don't eat. And I like to eat. So anyway, he spoke to me immediately and he said, make prayer your job. So I started praying 8 hours a day, just like I would a job. And I would take, breaks, and I'd take a lunch break. And we did that for a while. And after a while, the Lord started speaking to me exactly what I needed to do, what we needed to do.
And so since we didn't have any money, and my mom would give us a couple hundred, gave us $200 a month. I had an aunt that gave us $80, not 800, $80 a month. And here we were, a family of 4, surviving on $280 a month. So I had to find unique ways of making money. I became the turkey hostess at the local grocery store, And I do those little things, and Stephen would go out in the woods and he'd get grapevines.
Grapevines.
And I would make these grapevine wreaths, and we'd sell them at a little auction here in town. And if you know me, I don't cook, I don't bake. The kitchen is not my friend. But I learned how to make the best tasting cinnamon bread, and we would sell that at the auction. And that was kind of a dual purpose, to try to make a little bit of money. But we usually just made enough money to
Cover the cost.
of the table. And but that was our opportunity to like evangelize, reach out to people. We had these little puppets, and as people would walk by, we'd follow them and talk to them through the puppet, and we'd pray for people. And people did come to the Lord, and we did pray for individuals, and we had an opportunity to begin to connect to the community. But it was very much a pioneering season.